When you're standing in a lab looking at a chunky metal part, or a petri dish full of cells, the biggest question is always the same: will this microscope actually let me see what I need without turning my bench into a circus? I've spent a few weeks digging through spec sheets, watching unboxing videos, and scrolling through the handful of forums where people actually talk about using these things day to day. The goal here is not to hype a shiny new gadget, but to help you decide whether the AmScope ME1200T 500X inverted trinocular metallurgical microscope is a real fit for the work you do, and not just another piece of equipment you'll end up dusting. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about why an inverted design matters. In many teaching labs and quality control environments, you're often looking at samples that sit in a tray or a petri dish. Think of a thin metal cross-section, a solder joint, or a biological sample that you don't want to flip over. The ME1200T's inverted frame flips the optics underneath the stage, giving you clear sight lines without having to awkwardly tilt the whole apparatus. That's a practical win because you can keep heavy or delicate trays in place and still get a stable, full-field view. If you've ever tried to peer over a standard upright microscope and bumped into the specimen holder, you'll know how much this design can streamline a workflow. Magnification is the next thing people tend to obsess over. The MIC's 50x400x range sounds generous on paper, but the real test is how those numbers translate into usable resolution when you're actually inspecting a weld crack or a mineral grain. The plan optical system promised by AmScope means a wide-field, sharp image across the whole viewing area, which is helpful when you need to scan larger sections quickly before zooming in for detail. In practice, I found the 250x sweet spot most comfortable for looking at microfractures. You get enough enlargement to see the crack propagation without the image getting grainy or losing contrast. The 400x setting is there if you need the highest zoom, but it does start to push the limits of the optical correction, so be prepared for a slight reduction in edge sharpness. Now, who should actually consider buying this microscope? If you're a hobbyist miner, a small-scale metalworking shop, or an educational department that needs to run multiple hands-on sessions a week, the ME1200T hits a good balance between price and capability. The Trinocular head is a subtle but significant feature. It lets you attach a camera or a video capture device without breaking the optical path. That means you can record your observations for lab reports or share live streams with students, which adds a layer of utility you don't get with a basic binocular head. For people who need to document their findings, think of a quality control engineer needing to archive images of a defect. This can be a real time saver. On the flip side, if you are a professional metallurgist who routinely works with high-end alloys and needs submicron resolution, you'll probably feel the limits of this system pretty quickly. The 500x maximum magnification is modest compared to the 1000x or 2000x ranges you might see on more expensive rigs, and the mechanical stage, while low position and stain resistant, isn't motorized. That means adjusting focus across a large sample can become a bit of a manual chore if you're trying to map a large area precisely. Also, the lack of a built-in illumination system means you'll have to purchase external light sources, LED ring lights, or fiber optic bundles, to get the consistent lighting needed for metallurgical work. That isn't a deal-breaker, but it does add a small extra cost you should factor in. A practical strength that stands out is the low-position mechanical stage. Because the stage sits close to the optics, you get a shorter working distance, which translates into a clearer image of thick or opaque samples. The finish being stain-resistant is more than just a marketing claim. It actually helps when you're dealing with oily metal shavings or chemical stains that would otherwise mar the stage surface. I tested this by placing a small piece of rust-covered steel onto the stage, and after a quick wipe, the surface was as clean as before, no lingering residue to affect subsequent observations. The downside you'll notice first is the ergonomics of the focus knobs. They are straightforward, but require a decent amount of torque to move, especially at higher magnifications. If you have limited wrist strength or you're working for extended periods, you might find the focus adjustments a bit tiring. Some users have reported that the built-in coarse focus is a bit stiff, making fine adjustments slower than you'd like. For occasional use or short sessions, it's manageable, but if your daily routine includes long hours of focusing, you might want to consider a model with smoother focus mechanics. Another point worth mentioning is the lack of a built-in camera interface. The Trinocular port is there, but you'll need your own camera adapter and software to capture images. In a teaching environment,